Hi, today's video I'm going to be doing a chicken curry and I'm just going to start off with the basics of any curry, which is chopped onion, and I've shown you how to chop an onion lots of times. So I've got diced onion here, but I've also done some sliced onion as well, so you can decide what you fancy putting in. It's just bigger chunks or smaller chunks. If people don't like onion in your family, I would suggest you grate it in and then it's hidden and you can't tell it's there. Garlic, and I've done 2 or 3 cloves of fresh garlic. Lazy garlic and lazy ginger, I'll come to that in a minute, are absolutely fine, and at least you don't drop them in the pan when you're doing it. Fresh garlic, fresh ginger are really, I love the flavours of them, and they're not, they're quite reasonable to buy. So I like garlic in this, so I'm going to do 3 cloves, but you could do about 2 cloves or a good teaspoon of lazy garlic, and I'm grating it in. You could crush it or you could slice it with a knife, okay? I've also got on my chopping board, just put the onion in, a bit of chilli. So I've got a couple of chillies because I've bought a big packet. I'm using them up. But if you've got fresh chilies, great. Otherwise you can use chili powder or chili flakes later, and I'll show you where. So they go in. Normally I put my stove on first because I'm talking to you. I'm doing it the other way around, but that goes on quite a high heat, so medium to high heat, in a couple of spoonfuls of vegetable oil or rapeseed oil, and that's just going to start cooking. The last ingredient of the kind of curry mix to start off with is something called root ginger. Now you'll have heard of ginger biscuits, and that's the powdered ginger. This is the root, which is obviously grown in the ground, that's why it's called root, and it's knobbly and a bit funny looking, but it smells delicious, or I think it does, and it's a really good staple flavour to a curry or to Chinese food and Thai food. So if you're interested in doing a bit of Asian cookery, fresh ginger is lovely to cook with. You can find it in places like Aldi. You can find it with the fresh herbs and the garlic and the chilies on that little counter there. So all I do with this, most recipes will say about 1 inch, so about 2.5 centimetres is all you snap off or cut off. You can eat the skin, it wouldn't harm you, but most people remove it, and an easy way of removing it is just with the edge of a teaspoon, because if you had to do it with a peeler you wouldn't have much left. But you could scrape it with a knife and you can just see it just comes away really easily, and again you can just grate that in, or if you like the taste of it, see how you feel about it first, you can just slice it in into shreds usually. I'm going to grate it, and you'll find it very sinewy. Just watch your fingers when you're grating. I'm doing it on the smaller set, and this is a little handheld grater, but you could use it on a normal cheese grater, but you have bigger chunks in. And you'll see, I'll show you in a minute, it's a bit sinewy as the root ginger, but it's you don't need to put all of that in. Okay, just scoop it off there, and I actually love the smell of it. It's really used in a lot of, as I say, Asian cookery, but it's also really good for digestion, and I quite often have a piece of that. Don't even peel it, I stick it in hot water and have it in the morning for a drink. And it's meant to be quite good for your digestion, but it's ginger tea and ginger, fresh ginger is to eat it even. It's a bit strong to eat it, it's really good for digestion. And that's all you do, and that's your first bit of the curry. So I'm just sauteing that off, so that just means softening it until the onions go a little bit, it's called opaque, a bit see-through almost, slightly different colour. They're just softened a little bit. Don't do it too so that they go dead brown, because then you might get a bitter taste. But onions have a lot of natural sugar in them, and they go quite sweet if you just saute them quite gently. So that'll take about 5 minutes to do that, and then I'm going to add the spices and the meat, and then the liquid to make it into a curry. And just this recipe, I put on the recipe sheet tomatoes, or you can use cream. Cream works really well. It's obviously if you put cream in, it'll make a creamier curry. but not. Some people like a bit of both, and that makes it more like a tikka masala, that sort of flavour. So this recipe, as usual, you can change to what you and your family like and don't like. When the onions and the garlic and the ginger softened a little bit, I'm just putting in the chicken pieces. Now, on the recipe, I think I did the chicken first. It doesn't really matter. You just fry off. You can fry it all together as well, really. It's quite flexible like that. So I'm just stirring in the chicken. I've put it up into bite-sized pieces. Try and keep the chicken similar sizes so that it cooks at even time. But you can make this ahead of time. You can store it in the fridge until you want it, or you can keep it on a low heat or in the oven for quite a long time. And sometimes some people do that and like the flavours to develop a little more. So it's quite good like that. I use chicken thighs because I quite like that for a change. Sometimes I find chicken breast if I'm cooking it for quite a long time on the stove can go a bit dry, but chicken thighs don't tend to. And it's about perhaps 2 or 3 per person. And I've actually used scissors to cut up the chicken. As long as you wash them really well afterwards, there's no chance of cross-contamination. And I find that a really quick way of cutting the chicken up. And just make sure you store them separately or use them or wash them hot soapy water to remove any bacteria. So the chicken is in there, the onions and the garlic. It's smelling quite like a curry, starting to smell like a curry. So that's on there, medium to high heat. Keep an eye on it that the onions don't and the garlic doesn't burn. And we're browning the meat, which means turning it, just cooking the outside of it. It won't be properly cooked yet till about 20 minutes, but for this first stage, it just browns off the meat. In a moment, I'm going to add the spices. Now, on the recipe, I've broken down the spices to the main ones that are used in a curry: cumin, garam masala, and turmeric. There's also things like coriander you'll see on the shelves, which is also part of this kind of family, if you like. If you have got curry powder or curry paste, if you look on the back of it in the ingredients, you'll see that basically this is made up of these spices. So you can use this or you can use a selection. It's really up to you. These last for ages, and if you like making curries and experimenting with them, then these, the best before dates, I bought this a while ago and it's still 2021, so they do last for a long time. So they're probably quite economical, about £3 from the range those were, but Aldi do smaller ones and they're quite cheap, they're about 60-70p or something, and they do last a long time. My old favourite chilli flakes are out. You could use chilli powder on chilli puree, things like that, like the lazy garlic, like the lazy ginger. You keep them in the fridge and you've got them, and they're all really easy to use. And tin tomatoes are going in with tomato puree. So when my chicken's browned, I'm going to add the spices, and Indians tend to cook off the spices first before they add the liquid, if you like. Another nice sauce to make is coconut milk. So if you have a tin of coconut milk, you can just throw that in with the tomatoes, or instead of tomatoes, and you get more of a creamy curry. And I think I put a YouTube video on of me doing a katsu curry, and the katsu curry sauce is very similar to this, but it's got coconut milk in and no tomatoes. So I'm going to get on with browning the chicken, and then I'll add the spices. When the chicken's browned or gone white on each side, I'm then just going to put my spices in, so a couple of teaspoons of each. Towards the end, I'll taste the seasoning. I won't taste the chicken, I'll just taste the sauce. But I'm just putting those in, stirring them round, and you get that nice colour from the turmeric, which is makes it all yellow. And you can smell it really starting to smell like a proper curry. So I'm just going to put my old favourite in of pepper, and I'm going to put a good sprinkling of salt in. Again, you can do that. I know I like probably about a half teaspoon of salt in this to a teaspoon. If you're cutting down on your salt, you try to test it first to see how salty it is. Couple of spoonfuls of tomato puree, and that just adds that tomatoey depth of flavour. If you were doing a coconutty one, you might not put that in, but it gives a pink colour if you do with just coconut or cream. Okay, and as soon as that's just been fried around for a couple of minutes and all the chicken's coated, it's ready to put your sauce in, your juice in. In this case I'm using tin tomatoes. If you can just tip the whole lot in. If you want to put coconut milk in, or just water and make more of just a curry sauce, that's fine. But I like tomatoes in this, and I'll probably put a few fresh tomatoes in as well. So I'm just going to, because I've got quite a lot of chicken now, I'm just going to put a little half a can of water in there. And I'm going to pop the lid on, and that's going to just simmer away, which is on a low to medium heat. Just make sure the sauce is bubbling. There's a little bit of bubble going on. Okay, steam's come out. So it's about medium heat. Find the lid. Pop the lid on. I'm going to simmer that for at least 20 minutes. And you can keep it on a really low heat for longer than that if you want. And then I think I'll serve it with either rice or naan bread, or I'm going to try the new air fryer out that I borrowed from school, and I'm going to make some chips from potatoes. So I will see you soon. The curry's been on the stove for about 20, maybe half an hour actually, 30 minutes. And you can see that the sauce is thickened up, and the chicken is well and truly cooked. Just test a bit if you're unsure by putting through the fattest bit and checking that it's cooked thoroughly, but it will be. If you've had it simmering for 20 minutes, it'll be well cooked. And I'm going to serve mine with my air fryer French fries, which have turned out quite well. I've left the skins on for a bit of extra fibre, teaspoon of oil, and they've been in there for about 20 minutes and they work quite well. A little bit of rice, microwave rice, I confess, and a naan bread. And you could even have a go at making your own naan bread like we've done in school. And if anyone wants a recipe for that, you can email me at school and I will put the recipe from the naan bread. I've got quite a nice one, which you just cook in a frying pan. So if you want that, let me know. So I hope you enjoy it. We'll see you soon. Bye.